This is the Horse Radio Network.
If only we could all be like the Queen of England and spend our quarantine period riding horses every day. This week, we're discussing what horse shows will look like in the after times. And by that, we mean after Corona times. And we'll get some tips on how an equestrian entrepreneur is staying busy despite the state of the world right now. Thanks for tuning in. From Heels Down Mag, a podcast where horse pros chat about what's happening in the horse world over drinks. Welcome to Happy Hour. I'm Justine Griffin.
I'm Jessica Payne.
And I'm Ellie Woznicka. Welcome to episode 69 of Heels Down Happy Hour.
How are you guys?
I'm good.
You surviving?
Yeah, weather's been beautiful, so can't complain. We've been riding, getting back into the swing of things, and honestly, just kind of enjoying the new weird normal.
Yeah, I really can't complain either, though I do miss talking to you guys. I feel like
I know.
It goes too long, you know?
Yes, I miss you too.
Oh, but by the way, Ellie, so from the trunk show last week, if you guys haven't been attending our Zooms, they're super fun. Ellie, I'm obsessed with your knitted horses.
Little hat. I like your hat too, I saw.
How did you learn how to do that? It's so cute.
So my grandmother taught me how to knit when I was a kid. So I've always been kind of the weird grandma child who was just over in the corner, everybody's playing video games and I'm knitting a sweater. So yeah, it just kind of happened. And then I wanted to kind of make, things that were custom for people. Cause I always used to get frustrated when I'd go to buy something for a friend or for myself. I'm none of these horses look exactly right. It's got too much markings or too little markings so that's kind of how it came to be. But basically it's just a reason for me to do nothing and sit on my butt and watch Netflix. And Matt will be well, how come we can't go mow the grass or weed whack? I'm I got to work on this. I'm working on this.
That's funny.
That is awesome.
So this episode is brought to you by EcoGold. You all know by now that we are huge fans of EcoGold, and we love EcoGold because their products actually help protect your horse's back. They make the hardest working pads out there. You can shop for any style you want by going to ecogold.ca.
So guys, I have a Harry Potter inspired drink this week, which is actually really apt because since Matt's been working from home, he's been trying to get me to binge watch Harry Potter. And I don't know why it's suddenly become a topic of conversation. But so that is where the drink comes from this week. It is 1 ounce butterscotch schnapps, 1 ounce vanilla vodka, 6 ounces cream soda, garnished with whipped cream, butterscotch syrup, and butterscotch whipped cream. So you're going to add all the ingredients into a frosty mug. You're going to top with a generous dollop of whipped cream, or in my case, 3, and butterscotch drizzled on top, the syrup. And then you top again with the butterscotch whipped cream. So the butterscotch and whipped cream in a heavy mixing bowl, you're going to in order to make the butterscotch whipped cream, you're going to combine the whipped cream and the butterscotch syrup. And you're kind of make a sundae topping till it forms the peaks. And then you have Harry Potter butterbeer.
That sounds awesome.
Wow.
It sounds like dessert, and that's really all that matters.
So I went to Universal in the before Corona times, earlier this year, and a friend of mine who works with me is a big Harry Potter person, and I guess they're cool things to know if you go to Universal. If you ask employees certain specific things, very nerdy Harry Potter things, they respond a certain way. And in the bar, you can order very interesting Harry Potter adult beverages in Hogsmeade or whatever in the Harry Potter land. And so I followed her advice and got all these super fun, cool Harry Potter cocktails. And this reminds me of one of them. You can get fun, actual real adult drinks there if you know how to ask for them.
That's
so
exciting.
Yeah. So if you guys ever go, I've got the hookup and I can
You have the hookup.
share the secret details.
Yeah, that'll be your wizardry. You'll help us to find the best drink.
to get in
That'd be
there.
a good superpower.
I mean, you're gonna wait in line for 2 hours to ride a ride, so might as well bring an adult beverage.
Yeah, how else would you pass the time?
Exactly. So
I have some like kind of sad news with this whole thing. So they have decided to cancel the 2021 European Championships in the jumping. And I think that's kind of a little bit, I don't know. I mean, I understand that like they're worried about, not being able to have enough to get prepared for it and everything else. And now that Tokyo is pushed to 2021, but there's just a lot of uncertainty that like even Tokyo is going to go. So, because maybe Tokyo doesn't go, but the Europeans could have gone. I think that's kind of sad for a lot of, people that have been working hard. There might be now no championships in Europe next year. So I think that that's kind of pretty sad. And they kind of had like interviewed some people and all this because like basically what the FEI, they decided to call it off. But with it being so far out, there's a lot of chef to keeps and riders that are like, we should have plenty of time to do an alternate plan. Like, why are we now canceling it? And so it was pretty interesting to like kind of read about what these riders and coaches and everybody else are saying about it. And one of the biggest ones was like, they're saying, look, this is hurting the younger people of our sport. These aren't just senior riders like it is a senior championship, but maybe with Tokyo, now with the Olympics, there's only 3 riders. Now you could have had an additional couple riders going, maybe use the same, but like you could also have additional riders and use it as like a platform to like step up for the future. And so it's kind of hurting the youth of the sport because they don't get that now. Like they've now taken away 1 championship. So I'm hoping that the FEI doesn't kind of fall into place doing that with a lot of the other championships. So we'll have to stay tuned, but it kind of does suck.
it definitely sucks. Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point. Like, okay, yes, we had to postpone the Olympics, right? But to get rid of this entire championship, I mean, people prepare for so long to get to that point, right? I feel like you're right. There's enough time to try to figure out a schedule that works for all events, right? I mean, it's just a bummer for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, like, think about the people who have the older horses that this was their last year to kind of, cap off the career. I mean, they don't get that time back, so that's really sad.
Kind of sad on all accounts. But Ellie, you have some way better news that I can't wait to hear about.
I do. The Queen of England is always here to boost my spirits. So
she does it just for you. Sure.
Actually, yeah, totally. We talked about it. I mean, we've been Skyping since the quarantine.
Zoom calls.
I have to tell her all the time, the video's not on. You got to connect to audio. No. But so she is spending her quarantine time riding horses every day, which is, I think, the dream for all of us, who I unfortunately still have to like go to work. So I have my horses in my backyard, but don't get to actually ride every day. But she is out there, 94 and still kicking. And she, she says she's hanging out with her husband and having some quality time there. And I think people were worried too that she was like, not going to start coming back in public or out in public after COVID times. But there's like no indication of that. She's like ready to get back to work and come back stronger because she's a boss, because she's the Queen of England and like the coolest old lady. So that is my news.
It's a good one.
What about you, Justine?
So mine is good news too. The USHGAA has launched a feed aid, and feed like horse feed. And this a new initiative is meant to help horse barns and people who are affected by COVID-19. So if you're having a hard time meeting all your feed costs to feed all the horses in the barn, this initiative is meant to help those people who are suffering financially to still feed the horses and kind of get you through this tough time. So you can either participate as a feed provider, or you can apply for aid through USHGAA yourself. And then there's also an opportunity just to help. If you want to donate, the USHGA will match in some donations, which I think is great. We're seeing a lot of these headlines and these stories from, the racing community to the hunter jumper community all over where people, they can't give lessons right now. The horses aren't working. And as we all know, just the cost to feed the animals can be pretty high, right? So this is just a great initiative to help people who might need a little bit of extra help just to get them through these next couple of weeks. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go to the USHJA website, which is ushja.org. And again, look for the USHJA Feed Aid and Aid AID for more information. And if you love Hillsdown Happy Hour, if you love our podcast, we'd really love it if you could donate to our Patreon account. We appreciate everybody who contributes each month, whether you can donate $1 or anything more than that. Any little bit helps, keeps this show on the air. We love being part of the Horse Radio Network. And I know we've decreased our frequency for now, but we really hope to get that back up to our usual 2 episodes a month. You can help us by donating by going to patreon.com, which is patreon.com, and searching for Heels Down Happy Hour Podcast. Thank you. All right, guys. So I know we're trying to go to the store less, right? That's the feed store, the tack store, the grocery store, if any of those things are even open around you. But do you have products that you're hoarding right now? I figured I'd ask, what are you hoarding to help with your horse right now?
So for us, we've decided, it's been a strange thing. So I went to the grocery store probably every other day before this, which I know people probably think that's crazy, but I don't mind going to the grocery store. I kind of find it almost therapeutic in a weird way. So I like going and just, making sure I get all my stuff. And I also never was really big at putting things in the freezer. I know this sounds weird, but I didn't know how to utilize it well. And so this whole Corona thing is obviously taking us a whole toll. So we don't go to the grocery store. I have to call it in. So I order online and pick it up once a week type thing. And so same with the feed store. Our feed stores are open, but you call in your orders and then we order online. So with other things we need. So we've been been really good about is getting grain almost in so we stocked up a little bit, not to overdo the feed stores because you don't want to go in and buy 50 bags and then nobody else can get it. So I slowly would order a couple at a time when it first happened. So it now has if I don't get, because of weather or whatever else, I don't get to the store, we're good for an extra day. I used to go every Monday to the feed store. Now I go on a Monday, Wednesday, whatever works for us. So I always get just one extra bag of grain to make sure we have it if I don't get to go on that next week, because I used to buy it on every time was the week and it was the same thing. Now I'm doing a little bit 1 bag extra for our 25, 30 horses. And then the other thing is we use a lot of rubbing alcohol, and a lot of people went crazy with rubbing alcohol and witch hazel and stuff because and iodine. I needed iodine and couldn't find it. So I've been we thankfully have had it. So we've had to use everything more sparingly, we're not hoarding it. We're just not using it very much. We used to use the spray that we all talk about that Courtney has. We've had to use that a lot less, which is kind of weird. And fly spray, I've bought that in bulk because I can't go pick it up. So I bought them in 4 gallons of them. And then the craziest one was Hudson is obsessed with applesauce right now, but he only likes one particular kind. It can't be apple banana. It can't be apple cinnamon. It has to be plain apple. And it's made in the US and everything else. But then Doug read on it that the apples actually mostly come from France. So he had a nervous panic attack and bought $100 worth of applesauce from Amazon.
Oh my, are you serious? Wow.
No, it gets way worse. Can I just tell you how bad it got? So then he has been eating it more because we have more supply. So then we ran out of it faster. So then Doug ordered another one on Amazon in the 100 box. I mean, this thing is huge. I mean, the box is massive. And so we've been hoarding applesauce, but at the same time going through twice the supply of it. And Doug got cut off Amazon the other day. He bought his allotment of applesauce.
Oh my gosh. That is
I didn't
so
even know that was
funny.
a thing.
Neither did we.
Either.
But apparently, when you buy $200 worth of applesauce in a month and a half period, they're like, "That's enough for you, sir." So we had to get we quarantined our friends, or we quarantined ourselves with our neighbors because they have 2 kids and everything. We had to get them to Amazon the applesauce because God forbid we can't run out. So they had to do it. We had to Venmo them money.
Oh my God. That is so funny.
I hope when Hudson is a grown-up, you tell this story to like his first girlfriend.
Yeah. He ate so much
About how
applesauce.
he ate
We thought
so
he
much-
was going to turn into apples and cheese. That's all. I mean, he eats so much apple and cheese. We're like, that's what you're going to turn into. Don't worry, dude.
Oh my gosh. All right, Ellie, do you have a story to top that?
I don't know if I can top that, but so my thing is I've kind of always been a freaky hoarder. Like I always have at least 3 months extra of everything just to
Like,
make
what do you
sure.
mean? Like,
So,
extra of
like,
what?
Grain, cat food, cat litter.
What?
Like
That's a lot. 3 months is a lot.
because I'm
Where do you
afraid.
store it?
Oh, I have a big house. It's a redneck mansion. It's like no, really. It's like I don't know why they built this house so big. So it was like a basic like custom like manufactured home, right? Like one of the, you drive in and they deliver on trucks. Okay? And then the first owners built on one side of it and then the other side. So it's just a really
They
long
just keep adding on.
ugly house. So yes, so I have lots of spare bedrooms, so I have my stock. So
Oh my gosh.
I guess Matt and I are kind of preppers. Like we were like preparing for this. Like when it first happened, we bought a huge generator. We were like, we'll
What?
be okay. Yeah, I was scared, okay? So
From
I bought
coronavirus?
yes.
You're like me. I'm like, from what? The apocalypse?
Well, okay. I thought it would be an apocalypse. I was like, if they shut down our internet, we're all going to go like we're gonna be crazy. Like there are gonna be crazy people trying to steal our food. So I didn't know what would happen. So I prepared. But well too, like
I'm the
I have
exact
MS, right?
opposite of you.
So,
I literally go down to like we have no dog food left, and I'm like, I have to go to the store tomorrow. Like we have no dog food. I've got to go get it tomorrow.
oh my gosh, I do the auto ship for Chewy. I just
Wait. Jess, you say that, but you have like 100 pounds of applesauce.
No,
Yeah.
the only thing that is going to survive is applesauce. Everything else, like I mean, nothing else is going to survive except for the applesauce.
You
So
guys are funny.
I don't think other than like feed for everybody, I guess I've been hoarding. But in terms of like horse products, I bought a lot of Thrushbuster because for some reason I was afraid that like they wouldn't ship that and it's mud season. So I was like, this is still gotta be put on the horse's feet, whether or not it's the apocalypse. So that and a generator. I don't know if that counts as hoarding, but I didn't get any more cats though. I said,
Wow, I'm actually really impressed.
You guys
Matt
are funny.
What'd you hoard?
Yeah,
I mean,
what'd you hoard? It
maybe-
made me feel better about myself.
Oh my gosh. Maybe it's just because I'm from Florida. So, and now we're essentially about to be in hurricane season. So, I'm used to like having supplies for the hurricane, which basically is like, how can you survive if you have no power? So we're already like, we have stockpiled water supplies and like canned goods, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I didn't really buy anything because like worried about coronavirus. My dad owns restaurants and he's a crazy hoarder person. So he has more toilet paper. I can't even I should take a picture of it. It's crazy. He has so much toilet paper. He's one of those crazy people, but he's not buying it from the grocery store. He's buying it like as a wholesaler.
From suppliers.
Yeah. So he's selling it at his restaurant. Like if you come in and buy a pizza, you could tack on $1 and take home a roll of toilet paper.
That's amazing.
That's a good business plan.
I know. I thought that was nice, because he's not making any money on it, but he's selling it at cost, like, hey,
he's helping other people
toilet
out,
paper, here, take some home. So
because you still can't find toilet paper on the shelves here.
I know, right? That and Lysol. So he came over a couple weeks ago and brought me more toilet paper than I think my husband and I could use in 6 months. So we've got plenty of that. But for horse wise, the only thing I've noticed like that affects my horse that I buy is like old people supplies or baby supplies. So like diaper
or
rash
beer.
cream. Yeah, beer's been okay. I haven't had trouble finding beer. But like diaper rash cream for scratches and stuff as we get into the wet season, I bought a lot of that just because it's harder to find on the shelves right now. And then fiber, like old people fiber, I use that as like a sand clear. And grass is so sandy, we use that as like a sand treatment. So I buy like the old people fiber stuff. So that's literally the only two things I think I've stockpiled. Wherever I see it, if it's on the shelf at my grocery store, like Walgreens, I'll always buy an extra one because I know I'll use it eventually. So
do you know what else I've noticed has been like missing is I've got a lot of horses with allergies and I put them on Benadryl, and it took me the longest time to find Benadryl. And like they uppriced it on Amazon. It was crazy.
All allergy medicine. I noticed that with Mucinex, Zyrtec, all that. It's been hard to find because I live on that stuff this time of year, and it's been hard for me to find, like personally for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Maybe everybody's going to turn into a prepper after times.
Right. Maybe.
I will help you guys. I will give you some tips and tricks.
Oh my gosh.
A classic style updated with tech fabric. EIS's new Johnny Cool shirts will keep you cool on the hottest days. These short sleeve shirts are coming out soon in white, navy, ocean teal, and sorbet. Pre-order at eis-wear.com.
Okay, everybody, we have a really exciting guest on the show with us this week. Bethany Lee started My Equestrian Style in 2017 with her camera and just her everyday riding clothes. Bethany was also part of our Bloggers Week campaign last year. If you guys have been reading heelsdownmag.com and also the Heels Down Brief, it's great to have you on the podcast, Bethany. And I know that you also have your own podcast, the Equestrian Podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so pumped to be here.
So to start out, Bethany, we wanted to know, could you just tell us a little bit how just how your brand has evolved from being a fashion Instagram account to podcasting? And we're really excited to learn more about the equestrian workshop too.
Yeah, well, listen, it has been a whirlwind for sure. And it's definitely not something I necessarily, I guess, looking back, planned for exactly, but I am so happy with where it's gone and kind of all the pivots we've made throughout the past few years. And so it's really just started out. My husband and I were wedding photographers when we were living in Los Angeles. And just a little side gig for anyone who lives in LA will be able to resonate with, just trying to pay rent. So doing that and really love photography. We're super stressed out as wedding photographers, but we loved the idea of photography and all the gear and equipment we had. And so I did that on the side and then also had a training job at a barn in Calabasas. So when we ended up moving to Florida, I kind of lost my creative outlet. We weren't really doing photography anymore. And I started a new training job. And yeah, I just really was trying to find a way to be able to take pictures and do something creative. My mom, I always tell a story, my mom would find me like in the middle of my closet when I was 5 with like 7 layers of outfits on at any given time. So I've just always been into the fashion scene. So I was looking on Instagram trying to find, I guess like a creative outlet or something to do. And I was like, I'm always in riding breeches. I'm always riding, always in riding clothes. And so I drug my husband to the barn one day and I was like, just take pictures in a couple of these riding outfits for me. And so he took pictures of me wearing like 6 different outfits that I already had at home. And it kind of just went from there. At the time, there were maybe like 1 or 2 other people that were, posting equestrian type pictures that were fashion related on Instagram. And so my equestrian style was born like that. And it has grown so much. I've met so many amazing people. And when I was talking to different connections individually, we'd always come up with these really cool talking points that I was always like, man, I wish that more people talked about this stuff kind of within the equestrian realm. And so that kind of brought on the Equestrian Podcast, which I launched January 2019, just to talk about areas of the industry that aren't normally talked about. So that's been super fun too. And then it just kind of took a step further. Would hear from different people in my community looking to do something similar to what I'm doing, whether it's podcasting or being an influencer and kind of, navigating that realm as well as other equestrian businesses. So my friend Leah from Dapple Bay and I decided to start Equestrian Workshop, which is both now an online and an in-person workshop for different female equestrian entrepreneurs to kind of narrow in on their business and kind of create community along the way. And so that's been such a blast. We started that at the beginning of this year.
So Bethany, what are some of the common mistakes you think equestrian entrepreneurs make? As someone who's launched a successful business and have been able to pivot it in different directions, are there certain, when you're looking at other businesses online, are you seeing some things that you could point out as, hey, this is a great way that you could plan for the future? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I often see or that we are trying to help navigate during Equestrian Workshop is a lot of stuff having to do with kind of storytelling and creating a brand on social media. I think we kind of get caught up in the content that we post and making sure or being stressed out over like, oh, is this what my people want to see? Will this give me the most likes? And like really getting hung up on that, when in reality, what I always tell my girls is to really focus on aspects of your life that you are super passionate about and talk about that, more of your why behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you'll find that, maybe some things people won't be a fan of, but they were probably not part of your community to begin with. So that's kind of the message that we often have to teach our ladies that are involved in the workshop, is to really develop your own voice and your own why. And that kind of attracts the community that you want in the long run.
So with the workshop, what are some key factors, I'd say, like to you tell people to help build a successful business? Like with that workshop, what are some of your key points that you try to, tell some of your listeners and the people that join the workshop?
Yeah. So a big part is that idea of like creating a brand and storytelling. That's one for sure. Another one, and this is something that my partner Leah is super good at because she's a big account director at an ad agency. And so she really talks about the importance of developing a good concrete marketing plan. So we kind of go through and, individually curate a marketing plan for each lady, because something that we also try to really talk about is that it's never like a one size fits all situation. And each business and brand is so different that finding unique ways to get to your point A and B really do often tend to be a different path for each person. So that's another one. And then finally, just a kind of another offshoot of community. But between Leah and I, and again, the other ladies that came to our first in-person workshop, between the 16 of us in that room, we had so many connections. So really trying to, hit home on the idea of how powerful community can be. In the past year and a half that Leah and I have been working together, just individually on each other's businesses and keeping each other accountable, we've grown so much. So that's kind of the idea that we really teach our other ladies, is to find a group of peers that you really connect with and really have, similar goals, and then keep each other accountable and help each other out, find connections for each other to really, make those things happen. So that's been, three of the big avenues that we try to touch on during the workshop.
So how are equestrian entrepreneurs weathering this coronavirus pandemic? Like, how has your own business been affected? I mean, you talk about community, and I imagine that's super important now since so many people are lacking those kind of connections.
Totally. Yeah. And again, like totally varies per person. My community and the idea of what to talk to my community about over social media has definitely shifted, and it's something that I wanted to try to offer as much help, as much free stuff and fun stuff. And some people came for a distraction, some people wanted real talk. So kind of navigating what that looked like based on my community. I did a lot of like polls and questions and had people give me feedback just to make sure that I was doing the best for my community personally. On the podcast standpoint, which I'm sure you ladies also experienced, a lot of the guests who I've been wanting to come on the podcast that, especially athletes who are crazy busy with show schedules, were finally free to do an interview. So I actually had a huge surplus of recorded episodes. So that was really fun to knock out a whole bunch of episodes for that. But it really, oh my gosh, like I feel like it varied so much and then even within the actual pandemic, there seemed to be waves of even just like online shopping. I think for a minute, people were, that was definitely seeing a decrease. And then, just kind of pivoting and shifting and using your products and services as a way to help others during this time, I think actually ended up being a positive for some businesses. So it was kind of interesting to see all the different shifts and changes.
So do you think that most of the shopping, like you're talking about, is going to go to online, or you think we'll still see people in retail, or you think people are adapting to their business because of this and you think it's going to be permanent, or what do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say, but if I had to guess, I would say most people are trying to get really creative with their online presence and building that platform more. Just because I feel like literally, and I think this goes the same for horse shows and stuff. We are about to like dip our toe in the idea of doing some shows in June, but it's like, we don't know when there's going to be a show again. We don't know if all of a sudden it's going to be like, never mind, that was not a good idea, like close up shop. So I think brands have been kind of feeling the same way to really spend a lot of their time on their online presence and their online shops because of that huge unknown.
No, I think 100% that's it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you could come on and tell our listeners where they can kind of find you, your website and everything else, where we can follow you and everything.
Yeah, of course. So I'm over at myequestrianstyle.com, and that's my Instagram as well. Otherwise, equestrianpodcast.com, equestrian podcast, and then equestrian workshop or equestrianworkshop.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was so much fun, girls. Have a great rest of your call.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
What colors will you pick? Smart Pack's Piper Breeches lets you show off your style in the schooling ring. See all the new colors Smart Pack has to offer by going to smartpackequine.com. All right, guys, I feel like we can't not have a coronavirus quarantine episode without talking about what horse shows are going to look like in the future. So I actually went to a horse show over the weekend, but I'm just curious. I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Like, do you feel like they're going to suck with all these social distancing policies, with some of the restrictions USCF want to put in place? I don't know. What do you think? All these different conversations are happening, and I'm just curious. So Jess, how are you and Doug kind of planning your schedule, or can you plan your schedule yet?
So we talk a lot of ifs, like what if school starts for the kids in the fall? What if we go to this horse show type thing? But so mainly we have kind of a tentative sort of schedule. But what we're really doing is like focusing the first couple ones. We haven't gone to a horse show yet, but there's some schooling shows that are starting to pick up. And then so the first week of June is a schooling show we're going to go to in Aiken. And then it's followed by 2 full weeks of like A-rated shows with Bob Bell and Classic Company. He puts on a great horse show and he's bringing it to Bruce's Field here in Aiken. So we're thrilled about that one. He puts on a great event. It's like one of our favorite events he does in Charleston. So we're not doing that this year. We're going to stay and do the Aiken one in June. And it's going to be interesting. Like he's already posted, they're waiting to get the final okay from the town. It's sounding like it's going to pass, and it should most of Aiken's open. But for us, we decided to do June. Not only is it a great show and at a great facility, we also decided why not stay close to home and kind of see what it's going to be like, because with our kids and with everybody else, like we have been very much taking this whole thing seriously. Like we don't go anywhere like we talked about earlier, but we also don't really see anybody. We don't let people in the house. we have our one group of, and when I mean group, it's a husband, wife with their 2 kids are our quarantine friends. He's a Grand Prix show jumper and they have a 3-month-old child. So that's the only people we've seen like during this whole quarantine mess. But we're all going to just stay here and see how it runs with the horse show. And we're actually planning on not bringing our children to the show. We've got our babysitters staying at home with the kids. And basically, we're going to play it by ear and see how it works because they have, a new waiver you have to sign for the USEF and for Classic Company itself. Everything is going to be online. The secretaries have been amazing dealing with they're like, okay, we're going to email you your bill on Saturday night. And, do you want your whole customers' bills? And I was like, yes, like make it easy for you guys. I can do it all. And everything's going to be, I'm going to Saturday night, look through everything, check out Saturday night, and then they'll run the credit card Sunday morning. So it's going to be a new normal for sure, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think, everybody hates waiting in line at the jumper shows to check out on Sunday. It's usually like a long line out the door. So now all of that's going to be a lot less and a lot less hectic. So they've taken some precautions, like they're supposed to have sanitary things at all the jumps. You have to wear a mask while you're on the ground. So I think it's going to be interesting, but I think it's still everybody, as a big rider, they're all so competitive. So they're ready to get back into that nature. And I think it's going to be really good to get everybody feeling that way again.
For sure. That's interesting. I mean, I think it'll just be interesting, like how things slowly start to roll out and how things, maybe change over time.
Yeah.
So there's this horse show venue here by me called Foxley Farm. They host a big rated circuit over the summer. So they're gearing up for that now. And it's funny. So this is something that they posted on their Facebook just
I
like
know
last
exactly
week.
what you're about to talk about. And I am all for that, by the way.
So they're calling it Tribe Toilets. And to help promote social distancing, they're going to let barns have their own, like barns can basically order their own private porta potty. So say like me and my whole barn went to the horse show, we could order our own porta potty that is designated just for our barn. Obviously you pay for it and they're clean daily. But I just think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You pull money for a tax doll. Why wouldn't I would feel a lot better pulling money for my own porta potty.
I think this should be a thing even before Corona times. This should have been a thing.
But all these things that like we're learning from Corona, it's going to be better in the end. And I think that I was telling Doug about this the other day and he's like, what? How are they going to bring porta potties? And I started explaining to him. He's like, this is a great idea. Like, I think everybody should have their own porta, because I don't want to I hate going to a porta potty. But if it's a porta potty that's cleaned every day and it's just my 10 people or whatever, whoever makes it stink, I can yell at them. I'm going to be like, seriously, it's so gross in there, X person.
Not just gonna yell at the random guy that just
then you're just like,
oh,
that's so gross. Yeah, at least you can get fair warning because it's going to be one of your people. So you're like, hey, might want to stay away from there for a couple hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, so that's an option here in Florida. I mean, but what about so many horse shows, especially in eventing, rely on volunteers. I mean, do you have any idea of how that's going to work?
This is just my personal opinion and everything else, but I think that's going to be the hardest thing about shows getting back for eventing. I think there's a lot of shows that have a very, loyal volunteer base and they will get back going easily. Like that's it. But the ones that already struggle to get, they have a once a year show or, they're really struggling to get the volunteers. I think those are going to be the ones that get hit the hardest because it's very, I wouldn't say easy for a jumper show to get back going, but jumper shows go most of the time throughout a whole period of the whole year. They have staff. They can call people. They're wanting to work because they're getting paid. They're not volunteers. But to have those shows that are once a year and they rely on just like people coming in, I think it's going to be hard to get those people to go, okay, look, for once a year, I don't really feel I need to come out and be in front of all those people. And a lot of them are, a little bit older too. And so it's like, no, I'm going to stay at home and be safe, which isn't a bad idea. But so I think it is going to take a toll on a lot of events.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So I just went to a schooling show over the weekend.
Yeah, how did it go?
It was interesting. So it wasn't the only schooling circuit that offered a show over the weekend. I could think of 3 in my area. Like we had options to go to, and then there are more this weekend. And I think they're kind of testing the waters to see, how realistic it will be for them to kind of do crowd control and all these other measures. And I will tell you, the horse show was packed. It was like every barn from like a much wider radius came to this horse show. I just think people are restless and they were excited to come to a horse show. But they took, the show organizers took it very seriously. Like they spaced out stalls. So where they could have sold out stalls, I don't think they did, because they spaced out barns on purpose. They banned spectators. So like you can't bring your mom and your husband and your dogs. So, like they were very serious about who was able to kind of set up a chair at ringside. And if anybody gathered too closely, like even other riders from my barn came up to like the ring to watch me ride. They had someone ask them to like disperse. Can you please all gather together? Yep. They wouldn't let people come up to the ringside like steward stand. They had it all roped off. You weren't allowed to come under the enclosure. Everything was electronic when it came to like submitting your entries. They didn't want to pass paper around, which I thought was smart too. So they took it very seriously. I was sort of impressed. I thought it would be kind of like something that was going to be hard to enforce, but they did a good job. So I'm hoping that will be the new normal, at least, through these next couple months till we know what horse shows are going to look like. But it's not like the schooling shows didn't have designated ride times or some of these other rules that the USCF have proposed, and maybe for a rated show that makes more sense. But we didn't have any of that, and the divisions were packed. Some of them they had to split. Flat classes, they had to split whole divisions because they had so many horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people really wanted to go out. You could tell, and I think now that you kind of have an idea of when rated shows are going to come back, people are like, yeah, I'm going to go to these schooling shows to get ready for the June 1st start of the real horse show season.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the show I'm talking about that we're going to is sold out by... like stalls are completely sold out. They've been sold out for weeks. And and then, they're having to put the stalls in place, and, that there's going to be some guidelines that not everybody's packed on top of each other. But I think there's like at least 100 people on the waiting list. Like it's a lot.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot. That's crazy.
Yeah. So they're like completely sold out because no one else can show. And Tryon is sold out for the first 3 weeks.
Wow. Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not surprised. People are ready to get going.
They're ready to get going. And there's not a lot of, their options are coming, but they're still, compared to what the calendar year usually looks like, it's very limited. Kentucky already canceled their June show, the first couple of weeks of June. And so people are looking to go places. So I think it is completely, really interesting.
Awesome. And I'm glad to hear, Justine, that they took it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm worried about like closer to me, where the smaller shows, if they're going to enforce anything at all. I mean, my town specifically, everybody thinks it's kind of a government hoax. So it's an interesting time to be alive. But I'm just worried that people, I guess, won't take it seriously enough. And someone with an autoimmune disease, I make sure at work even that I'm like, socially distance, like get the heck out of my office, But I'm just worried, I guess, at horse shows if people don't take it seriously once things do start to open up over here.
Yeah, definitely. So, there were other horse shows the same weekend that, we made a decision to go to this schooling show because we thought this one would be the most responsible, if that makes sense. Good. You know what I mean? Like we know all the circuits here, and I was like, we trusted these people and their messaging about it going into the horse show was, they were very serious about, the what they were putting in place for social distancing. So that's why we went. But you're right.
Awesome.
I just wonder, like, as shows start gearing back up, will that fall to the wayside? Because a lot of this stuff is hard to enforce, like, and it's going to cost money to employ more people or more volunteers to be there. And I just, it's hard to know what the right answer is. And then you look at places like the World Equestrian Center announced that they're going to they're just going to close through the fall.
Because the World Equestrian, because it's indoors.
Right, in Ohio, which is interesting. So do you think the whole indoor season will be, will not happen then?
I think I think you're going to see a lot just like these shows. It's state by state. Mm-hmm. And I think for a WEC, they could say, look, we're going to close it for the period of time and kind of plan for it, because it's easier to plan to shut down than to last minute have hired so many people and so much stuff and put money into it than to have it get canceled. So I think for them, they're like, look, like, we're just going to shut it down. Like, the Robertsons are very responsible people. So it's like, look, like, let's just think ahead and this is going to be it. So I think, they're looking ahead saying, look, we're just going to make sure until next year because of the indoors, which is funny. You think indoors is going to survive everything because the weather. And now it's like, no one could have guessed this.
Yeah, seriously. And what about the social aspect of shows? We had an article that went up on heelsdownmag.com that kind of talked about this. For me as an adult Amy, I love my barn and I love showing with my friends, but I'm also somebody who showed by myself for years, so I feel like I could go either way. But maybe, Ellie, I don't know how important it is to you, in your past to now with how you horse show when you do, that social aspect of like being at a horse show with your barn is important, right? I mean, are you worried that coronavirus is going to change that?
I think I'm just worried about, I don't think it's just horse shows even. It's just the social aspect in general. I think people are just really like having a hard time, or at least I know I am, with just like just social distancing in general, just like being able to really communicate with people outside of, telecommuting. And also just like, when you're at a horse show and someone does a really good job, you want to go up, you want to like, pat their leg, good job. Like that was a great run, and it's just like, we have so many things like ingrained in our, just like how we communicate, I think, as people and as equestrians that we won't be able to do. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how we're able to show the same support. You know what I mean?
Definitely. We will see for sure. All right, guys, it's time for Rose and Thorn. Does someone want to go first?
I can go first.
All
right. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, mine's pretty easy. So my Rose, or I'll do my Thorn first. My Thorn has been that it's been an adjustment trying to figure this out, and, missing the horse shows and missing, all that we had planned for, because we missed, Kentucky and Carolina and the Fork, some of our favorite events. So that was really sad, and it's still getting used to that. Like, there's still no Tokyo and there's still none of that. So I guess in general, just what we've been like, the fear of missing out, like, right, that you've missed it and everybody has, I guess that's like my biggest thorn. But at the same time, my Rose is that with all this time, we've, for the first time, been at home, healthy and everything else, getting to spend time with our children. Like, we never are home this long, like, ever. And so it's always, you have to get back at it. You have to do this. Well, no, everybody in the world's been on lockdown. So it's kind of been nice to take a deep breath and not feel guilty to spend time with our kids. That, we didn't have to take Abby to a horse show when she's 2 months old, 3 months old. We've been at home getting to like have all these fun times, even though sometimes, it's a lot, but it's been fun, and it's been good that we've been able to stay and be a family and do something different, because we're probably never going to do that, not for a long time again. We'll be packed up, showing starting in June. So it's been a nice kind of break from it.
For sure. That is nice. I mean, you guys are on the road so much of the year. That is, you kind of forget that, right? That you can like have a moment and just relax at home. That's got to be different for you.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of took some adjusting, or like stir crazy. And then you finally get okay with it. And you're like, wow, this is kind of nice. Like, it's not reality. It's not something you get used to because we do love to travel and love to go, but we're on the road like 40 plus weeks a year. And now we're slated to be home March, April, May, each month being home no more than a week, like 7 days total within the whole month. Most of it was we were going to be home 2 to 3 days in the entire month. And instead we haven't gone anywhere. Like we've been at home the whole time. So it's good and bad, but we're just trying to see the positive sides of it and take in the moments while we have them.
What about you, Ellie?
Well, I'm trying to think. So my rose, I think, is that I don't want to say it out loud because I'm afraid that it'll bring on the rain. But
No.
It's starting to dry up, and my horse Berkeley is doing better now that I'm steaming his hay in terms of his breathing and stuff, which is a huge relief, especially after, dropping a lot of money on a hay steamer. So it's a little bit of a relief. But I guess my thorn is that Matt and I have been arguing about the cats a lot. So
what, that you have too many of them?
Well, yes and no. So here's the thing. Matt, I told you he doesn't like cats, but Matt's like honestly afraid of cats. Like he's afraid of like being scratched by things. So he does not like cats. So, and like our inside cats are like fine, but one of them is the devil incarnate. Like she's insane. And she's on my lap right now. And I just kind of hope she doesn't bite me kind of thing. But so he's kind of like the other day, she kind of clawed him a little bit. And so he got scared.
Clawed him.
So
it kind of happened.
Not fully, but
no, it just sort of happened.
Well, he got scared. He jumped and like threw his seltzer like up in the air because he got so scared. And he was like, "That's it, cat's going outside." And so we've been trying. Well, she has really bad allergies, so we've been trying to kind of figure out how we can get her to like socialize with the barn cats and like get her to be an outside cat, because we both think that if she's able to kill things, she might be more tolerable. But maybe she's got to kill things. So I guess that's going well, but it's also sad because she's my favorite.
Oh no.
So we'll see. We're trying to figure out now, I guess, if I'm going to have any inside cats, which I like having inside cats because they are fun and they keep the mice away. But so I guess cats are my thorn.
Jesus.
You and the cat saga.
Right? It doesn't stop.
It never ends. Just when I think it's finally calm, it's not. And someone tried to get me to get their cat the other day, like a cat with a deformity that'll probably need its leg amputated. And like I honestly for a second was like, "Oh, I can do this." I'm like, "No, I can't. Am I insane?" So good news is I have some kind of cap, some kind of limit, and I've reached it. But anyway, Justine, save us from the cats.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's see what's going on with me. So this is kind of a silly thing. That is my rose. So there is this service that the business is called Stud Crud Busters. And it is exactly what it sounds like, in that it is a woman who runs a professional sheath cleaning business. And she's been on the Horse Radio Network before. I'm pretty sure she's been on Glenn's show. And yet she drives all over Florida and she cleans sheaths, man. That's what she does. And she's amazing. And I've always used her. It's like literally the best $30 I've ever spent. She wants to do it for me. And so I had scheduled an appointment with her to come clean my gelding before coronavirus. Then coronavirus hit. And so obviously it's been a while. And she just reached out to me yesterday and was like, "I can come this week." And I'm like, I'm very happy that she can come. So that is my rose, is that my horse is going to get his sheath cleaned and I don't have to do it. So you should look at her Facebook.
What's the name again? Stud Crud Buster?
Yep, Stud Crud Busters. Look up her Facebook page. She's amazing. She's super amazing.
That is a good business plan, is to do something that everyone hates.
Because you'll have, people will be there for forever.
Exactly. And her prices are so good. You're like, yeah, most definitely. I'd rather pay you to do this than do it myself. And you should, look up her Facebook page. We actually wrote about her on heelsdownmag.com. So I will link a story about her too. Because she's got a great personality for it. She's funny.
You have to be if you're going to be elbow deep in sheath pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
It takes a special kind of person.
Oh my gosh. So the first time she came out, I don't remember what happened, but I just remember having to try to explain to my husband what she does and why I'm writing a check to Stud Crud Busters.
Oh my gosh.
She uses that? Oh no.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
when you just use her name.
Yeah, it was my husband was like, there are some horse things I just don't need to know.
I don't need to know. Yeah.
But anyways, so I'm excited to see her because she's a wonderful person and does a great job. So that is my rose. Let's see. My thorn is that my greyhound, my dog Tiki. So greyhounds notoriously have terrible teeth. I don't know if you have dogs that have awful teeth, but her mouth smells like it's rotting when she needs her teeth cleaned. Like she goes and gets it routinely done. And of course, her appointment also fell in the middle of coronavirus, and my vet has been taking it very seriously. So they canceled all non-essential procedures for a while. But her teeth deteriorate so fast. I've never had a dog in my life that has this kind of like it gets so bad so fast, So I kept calling my poor vet. I'm like, they're a pain in the ass type person that keeps calling. And I'm like, okay, can you see my dog as soon as possible? So finally they took my dog, but they were so serious about coronavirus that like they met me in the parking lot and I had to have a mask and gloves on and I couldn't get out of the car, and they took the dog out of the car themselves. And then they had to call me on the phone during the exam to talk about it. And then, you know what I mean? Like it's just so interesting how many different businesses have to make all of these adjustments, right? Just to do normally what they always do. And I'm very grateful for them, even though I spent a small fortune on my dog's teeth. Seriously, a small fortune. Probably could have bought off-track horse for the amount I just spent on her teeth. But but she's doing much better, and I'm grateful for my vet. But, it's such a weird time, right? Everything is weird.
Yeah, that's what my vet's doing, too, is the come out to the car and, like, they FaceTime me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
strange.
It's so strange. Yeah.
I have to go get, like, MRIs done at the end of the month, and I'm interested to see how that will work. Like going into like just like I'm kind of afraid to go into the hospital, but it's like a different, wing than like the emergency room and stuff. So, but I'll be interested to see like how like the waiting room is going to work. Like, are they going to like put us all in like corners and have tape and stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. The hospitals here have taken seating out of their waiting room to make people space out. And you have to get your temperature taken before you even walk in for any, routine appointment.
Oh,
so
wow.
You'll have to let us know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right. So we do have a mailbag that I'm hoping you guys can help our listener, Victoria. So it's a little bit of a story here. So hang on as you listen. But Victoria says she was hired to be an exercise rider twice a week on a nice thoroughbred gelding. She loves working with him. He's a great horse. But where the horse is boarded, it's not a high-end stable, and there is a groom there that takes care of all of the 20 horses on the property. He cleans and feeds all day. That's his job. But her problem is this guy, the groom, hates her. So she usually rides one day in the morning, early in the morning, and then one day late in the afternoon. And she does this because she's working, so she has to rotate her schedule on when she can be there. So anyway, so she runs into problems with this groom because sometimes he will even chastise for her coming. So he'll say like he'll refuse to move a horse that's loose out in the arena so she can ride. And it sounds like he's just kind of verbally mean to her. And so the person who hired her to ride the horse said that like she's welcome to come and ride anytime, that even though this groom is telling her otherwise, she should be able to ride anytime she wants in the arena. So she's at a loss of what to do. She doesn't want to complain about the groom, But she says she comes in, she tacks up, she rides herself, she sweeps the aisle, she takes care of the horse. She never asks for any assistance from this groom, but she's tired of getting yelled at by him. So she just doesn't know what to do. And she says she either wants to tell him off or punch him in the face. So do you have any advice on how to help her handle this working relationship with this groom?
So my advice would be is talk to the girl that hired her or the employer like that, saying you can ride at any time, because ultimately I think it's her responsibility, not the rider. I think it's the employer's responsibility to go and talk to either the barn manager or the barn person and saying, look, like your main person is having problems. Like the groom hates her and like is causing all these problems. And because she should have all the privileges that any boarder gets or anybody else. And she's not getting treated the same. So I would definitely, my advice would be go to the employer that hired you and talk to her about it, because I think that would be your best bet at getting something resolved without having it get nasty.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Kelly?
I think Jess has a better game plan. I'm a really confrontational person. So I think just in general, I'm not the right person to answer this question, because I would kind of just move the horse myself, put it in a stall and tell him to shove it, because I was hired to do this job and this is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, you can talk to my employer, kind of thing. But I think, the biggest thing I think would be to have a conversation with the three of you, if that can be arranged, where the employer says, this is what is going to happen, and you are both my employees, and you will do what I say, kind of thing. Someone's got to put their foot down, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with both of you. I mean, that's definitely a really uncomfortable situation. I'm also confrontational, so I would probably say something to the groom like, what's your problem with me? Just to almost, hey, like, what's the problem? I'm here to ride this horse. What can I do to make this better? Because I feel like sometimes when you just confront people, that makes them off guard, and then you have a real conversation. But I definitely agree that getting the owner of the horse involved is the right way to go. So hopefully that gets better for you, Victoria. And if you have a question for us that you would like for us to answer on air, you can always email us by going to hello@heelsdownmedia.com, or you can post in our Facebook group, which is the Heels Down Happy Hour Podcast Lounge. If you want to hear more from us, you should subscribe to the Heels Down Brief, our daily email newsletter, by going to bit.ly/hdbrief. We want to say thank you to all of our partners this week, EcoGold, EIS, and SmartPack. And all right, guys, that's a wrap.
Cheers.